Aaron Whitlow.
Brandon Spivey. And we are the Markout Movie Podcasters.
Eating something. But this is an episode of atrociously bad film.
Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
What would interest you? Something the size of a jumbo jet?
Have you been circumcised?
Brent, it always puts a smile on Brent's face. Pieces. If anything is near and dear to his heart, is the movie Pieces.
I love that movie. It brought so much joy into my life.
Well, with that being said, welcome to the Markout Movie Podcast. And on today's episode, we are going to be reviewing. We're going to be reviewing a movie called Intruders from 1989, Scott Spiegel film. But before I get to that, I would like to first give a shout out to the BG Horror Club. So this is the next screening that they're going to be having on June 17th. They are going to be showing Sleepaway Camp, the cult classic film with Angela, is what the character's name is. And then on July 11th, they're going to be doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You can check these movies out here in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the Capitol Arts. It's free to the public. They do ask, if you want to donate, usually a $5 donation that goes a long way to kind of help keep the club going. Chris Rutledge is the curator, so to speak, of getting the films together to watch. The last film that they chose was, of course, this film, Intruder. Brandon and I recently watched it for this week's episode of the podcast, and I can't wait to jump into it to see.
Can't wait.
Brandon?
Yes, sir.
So, Intruder, a movie that has a lot of Evil Dead alumni in it.
Yeah, the director, the star. What did Ted do?
Ted was I think Ted was the produce guy.
Producer.
And
okay.
Sam was the meat guy, the deli guy, the guy that cuts up the meat, and the butcher. That was Sam, and then Ted was the guy that did the produce, like watermelon. He's the one that caught
he's the one that cut up watermelon in the worst possible way I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, he dug a piece right out the center of the watermelon. Caught it.
I was like, man, he butchered that watermelon. But yeah, you're right though. I mean, Evil Dead alumni. It's this movie feels like it was made before 1989. It feels like it came right out like early 80s. Doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, it really felt like so I did a little research. So Intruder is originally like before, I think, right before they did Evil Dead, or somewhere in between, either like in 1970 something. They shot one of the little short films that they shot was a movie called it was called The Night Shift, and it was about like a night shift crew that worked at a grocery store, and there was like a killer that he killing people in like very creative ways or whatever, and so but that film, the original short movie, was like destroyed, and so years later, obviously Ted and Sam and Bruce, they got busy with Evil Dead, and it took several years to get Evil Dead ready to be released. But in the meantime, they had to put Night Shift on the back shelf, and finally at one point it was even going to be called Night Shift: The Final Checkout. So
Yeah.
But then like I guess the execs was like, no, we're going to change the name to Intruder. But when Scott Spiegel, who also was a part of that little crew with Sam and Ted and Bruce, when he was ready to make his movie, this was the movie that he wanted to make, and that's why he was able to get his buddies Sam and Ted and Bruce Campbell to come into to be in this movie. It wasn't a big. It was obviously a flop, but I think this is the most slept on movie of the '80s. This was great. I loved it.
Now, I know a little bit of your work history, but I don't know. Did you ever work in retail? Like in a grocery store or anything?
I never worked. Well, yeah, I did. I worked at Houchins. So when I was 16,
Yeah, I think Houchins would be very similar to this little store here.
Yeah, and that's what it reminded me of. Like you remember working at Walmart, but you remember.
But I didn't have like no. This is like before the super center, so we didn't really do groceries. So I didn't have that experience, but everything else, it just took me back to that experience, and especially that trash compactor. I was afraid of that trash compactor, like literally. They wanted me to use it the first day. I was like, I ain't using that. Somebody's gonna die in there. Somebody's gonna get put in there, go get crushed. I ain't doing it.
Yeah, we have one of those at our community store actually, where we take it's the baler, and we take and it crushes recycled clothes that we're not going to be able to sell, and it crushes it down and into a cube essentially. but yeah, that trash compactor it's a very dangerous piece of machinery.
It is.
It's reminded me of working at Houchins when I was younger. We literally had a whole day like where we had to come in early in the morning, and we had to box the shelves. You get inventory, you had to put the inventory out, but sometimes you also had to box the shelves. So you had to pull items to the front, make it look presentable, so that it can catch people's eyes or whatever. So it kind of took me back to my time of working in the Houchins. So yeah, I got fired from that job, so it didn't.
Well, look at you getting fired at Houchins.
Fired from Houchins.
But you didn't go off and start a killing spree on people, you took it.
No, at least I didn't have a ham sandwich in one hand, and we gotta talk about that. But so this movie, like you said, it literally felt very 80s. Like it had the synth score was really great. It started with like, I'm glad that it was like all in one location. I love the idea of a horror movie in a grocery store at nighttime. It's such a great idea. It hasn't been done a lot of times. So I can only think of this and that shark movie that was at the grocery store. Yeah, Bait. But yeah.
I love Bait. I mean, watching this last night, I was just thinking while I was watching it, of course, I was just thinking, man, it really took me back to working at a retail store. And like when I worked at Walmart, we used to play pranks on each other all the time. It was a fun atmosphere, and you could tell by watching this movie, it was just a fun atmosphere. That part of it felt authentic, the little romance felt authentic. I remember this one girl, like she had bad taste in men, and he would spy on her while she worked there in a garden center. I forget her name. And she was interested in me, and I was like, no, dude seems like a stalker. I'm not getting involved in that. But that's what the guy reminded me of. He reminded me of that dude, and the main girl reminded me of the girl that had bad. She just chose bad. So it was just fun. It was fun to look back and have those memories at Walmart. Good memories before the Supercenter came. But
I did want to mention while we're talking about, so real quick in the cast, Liz Kern, who plays Jennifer Ross, she's the main love interest, I guess. Renee Estevez. I wonder if she's related to Emilio. And
I would say so.
Because that's not you don't see a lot of Estevez's out there, right? Yeah. Three brothers: Emilio, Ramon, and Charlie Sheen. So yeah, it's Emilio and Charlie Sheen's sister is in this movie. Renee, she's in this film. Yeah, with the name Estevez, you immediately think of the Estevez, or the Sheen family. Think about it.
You think of we obviously think of Emilio, but then there was Joe. I think that was the uncle, right? That was Martin's brother.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not too familiar with Joe.
He did low budget horror films, so
okay.
she's kind of followed in the family.
Yeah,
kinda. I mean, they've all kind of done. I don't know about Martin, but I know Emilio. He did Maximum Overdrive. Again, one location, but pretty much. Charlie, I'm not sure. I'm sure he did some horror film back in the day. But yeah, I just like the atmosphere. I like the characters in this movie. If that felt authentic, it really did. Well, not the killer. The killer, he was fun though. I love him, but I've never met anyone that really liked working at retail like he did.
Like he did, yeah.
Yeah.
So, spoilers, guys. We're going to spoil this film. This came out in 1989. If you haven't seen it, I'll tell you real quick the synopsis on IMDb. The overnight stock crew of a local supermarket finds themselves being stalked and slashed by a mysterious maniac. Speaking of this mysterious maniac, this movie also stars Dan Hicks as Bill Roberts, swinging the head, swinging a sandwich.
Yeah, I just love. I mean, I love that scene though, because he's obviously crazed and he's eating a sandwich. He's got a severed head in his hand as well. He kind of tosses it, and he says, "You're playing hard to get." I love it. I mean, it's so insane, and it's the definition of 80s horror.
You like insane.
I love insane. I wish we'd get more insanity in horror films. Personally. Speaking
of insane, the ex-boyfriend David Burns is the character named Craig Peterson. He was a red herring essentially in this movie. He's a guy that you're gonna think that he is possibly the killer because of what you seen at the beginning, him being crazy, which he was crazy. And
he's
then
essentially Billy Loomis.
Billy Loomis, yeah,
with really bad acting chops.
Very bad acting chops. And then you have a guy I mentioned him, Sam Raimi is Randy, and then Eugene Robert is Danny. He's the other manager. And so if those that don't know him, I know him. This guy. I know him most famously in Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle. He was the manager, like he's the casting agent, or the director or something like that. He was one of the guys in charge, trying to see if you can be more black. If he would ask the characters to be. This is how you dance and walk and talk. He had a drink on that one, but no. But I was glad to see him in this movie. But then, I've marked out mainly when I seen Ted and Sam Raimi. Those are the main characters in this film that made me mark out.
Okay, what has Ted done? Does he do something for Marvel?
I think so. Ted.
Is he part of the Guardians?
He's still working. He did a Creep Show show, and he did a character in The Quarry, Travis Hackett, which I never.
Oh, that's him. Yes, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah, the Werewolf Game with David Arquette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Supermassive. Yeah.
So if you watch if you look at any advertisement for this movie, it is going to give away the killer. Which I would, except for the one that we're using is the title art right there. But if you look at this, it's going to give away the killer.
Oh yeah.
Like right there, and that's what was on Tubi. But I just kind of try to avoid looking at it. But
I didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But let me tell you one of my favorite things about this movie. Well, first of all, I love the camera angles. That is just so weird. The weird camera angles. That, like, I said while I was watching, I was like, "Oh, well, that was a choice." It's like he would do like angles, like the perspective of the floor, and she's sweeping, or the doorknob turning, or she'll do like the fluorescent light. Like or the phone, you see the rotary. It's just like I don't know why. I don't know why he chose that, but he did, and I'm here. That's how I felt.
It was some of the most awkward camera angles. Like anytime the ex-boyfriend was on screen, like before things really went down, I just laughed every time. And I laughed because he was like a fish out of water during this whole movie. I don't feel he ever acted before in his life. That's how it came off. But anytime they would do the weird angles plus that score, then him and his reaction, it just came off so awkward. I loved it though.
Here's one of those angles.
Yeah. It was really a weird angle throughout the picture. But you know, it kind of makes it original too. It kind of makes it stand out, and yeah. I'm definitely going to remember this movie. So, oh man, he almost looks like that one dude from the what was that show with Matthew Perry? It was a remake, The Odd Couple. He almost kind of looks like the other dude to a degree, if he had shorter hair. But.
Now, Greg Nicotero and his crew did the effects in this movie. They did the makeup and the practical. Now, when this movie ramps up, because at first, if you watch this movie, the pacing at the very beginning, what's keeping you interested, and what kept me interested, I would say, was just the bad dialogue and the bad acting, because it kept me going. I was like, and the weird acting.
It really was.
But then, once the killing starts, I was like, oh, wow. Because they were, like, a few killings was kind of cut away or whatever, or, like, it's called I forget what the term is, where a match cut, I think, where you'll see somebody, like, get hit, and then, like, all of a sudden, like, the camera will cut, and you'll see, like, somebody, like, smashing or cutting open the watermelon. You know, instead of a head. It's like that. But then once they actually start showing some of the death in here, you're like, you're like, oh wow, that was something. Like he literally was using somebody's head and doing the voice of them, talking about, hey, could you give me your box cutter for a minute? But it didn't dawn on me that guy was dead at that point. It like I was like, man, what is? I thought, what's happening?
I actually like that scene though, because it's like I said, it took me back to working at Walmart before it came to Supercenter. We would joke around like that all the time. Someone was trying to zone or stock, we would do that, and it's why it took me back.
You're not
there
down.
was one point in this movie.
And produce or whatever, product.
It It was in it was mainly when I did it. It was like paper towels, chemicals. There is one particular scene though when after they reveal who the killer is and all that I just love. It took me back to when I actually worked at Walmart, like last couple years, because that it was so me. I would be off the clock, and I would see somebody who had dropped something, and I would put it back on the shelf. Now, mind you, this guy's in a killing spree. He sees, I think it's paper towels, but it could have been toilet paper. He puts it back, he stocks it back up, and then continues to chase her. I just, for someone that worked in retail, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that dude. Just, he's dedicated.
So,
I just thought it was funny.
So for those that want to know, it starts off with, I don't have a way of really showing you scenes, so I'm just doing it this way. It starts off with this girl's ex-boyfriend popping up and stalking her essentially, and the other girl pushes the panic button to kind of get other people to come and help her.
Yeah.
Because obviously dude is crazy. He's cray. And he pretty much beats up everyone until like eventually he gets overpowered. And he pushes Sam Raimi. I think he pushes Sam Raimi into but that's when I see Sam Raimi for the first time in the movie, when he gets pushed. I was like, oh, Sam Raimi. I didn't know you was in this. I was not paying attention to the titles, like the sequence of titles. I think I seen his name, but I didn't think about it. But like, oh, there's Sam Raimi. But yeah, he pushes them, and they lock the door. Mind you, this is a plot in the movie. The door locks from the inside with the key. If you don't have the key, you can't unlock the front door. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, because that comes.
And after all that happens, though, here comes one of the biggest plots, points of the movie. They tell everybody. they tell the night crew that they're selling the store,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's gonna be out of a job like in a month, I think. This would never happen. People would not find out in a meeting like this.
Yeah, it's an unofficial meeting too. They just have to be. Wasn't they just like sitting around the or was that like before they were sitting around the break room?
No, this was like after the fight and everything. So I don't think it was a break room. I think it was like in the front. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it just wouldn't have happened like that. Like it would have just been a big rumor started. There would have been no meeting.
I found the scene. That's the scene, I think, right?
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah. It's basically between the two registers. They have this little meeting. And you can see they're all devastated, but the co-owner, which I found, didn't he say he started out like as I don't know if he said a car pusher, because that's what I was. I'm relating to the movie, but he started off at the bottom of the barrel, and somehow became co-owner. I laughed at that because it's just idiotic.
Well,
I mean, you have to just you really have to throw out all logic.
Yeah, and then also you got to think about this.
Anything about retail, but
you got to think about this too. Like you said earlier, this guy's whole life was this store. And so the fact that his co-owner, his co-manager is forcing him to sell it, it just like infuriates him to the point of murder. But they think this out because there's a scene where he goes outside and he gets in a fight with the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And you think that he's murdered because he gets hit with a hammer. And I thought that we see him later on at the top of the stairway talking about help me, and his head was busted, or was that someone else?
It was him. I thought that was the scene I thought he got killed in. Yeah. So when he pops up later, I was like, well, I thought he died. That was also them trying to make you believe that the killer is the ex-boyfriend. So I applaud that, though. I applaud them. They did a pretty good job there.
That's Ted, by the way.
Yeah, I liked him. He didn't do much. That was mainly his role right there with those headphones on. But I liked him. He was interesting. Everybody was interesting in this movie, though, honestly.
Now, I would say the kills in this movie. There were some very interesting ones. I would say the best one is the best one is the table saw. The table.
Oh, that was great. That was great.
Yeah. And then the next one would be that thing. It was hard. I actually turned away. I said, ugh. I did it like a few times. This movie, Greg Nicotero is the best makeup guy or special effects guy, practical. I
think he's better than Tom?
Yeah, I think he's better than Tom. And I think that Tom is great. Tom is great, but I think and Greg Nicotero is a disciple essentially of Tom Savini. But
yeah.
Greg, man, I don't know, man.
He worked on Walking Dead, didn't he?
Yeah, Greg Nicotero did all the makeup and effects for Walking Dead. But
I thought he was.
But by saying he's the best, it's also giving props to Tom because Tom trained him. And then you have what's the other one? Rick Baker, who's also really good, but he's really good at making creatures. Rick Baker was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I thought some of the kills in this movie is just some of the best kills of the 80s. Like truly, that scene you're talking about with the saw. Oh man, that may be my most memorable kill in the 80s in recent memory. Obviously there's a lot of 80s horror films, but that was gruesome. Like I wasn't expecting some of these kills to be that good, especially with the kind of movie it is. And it's a poorly written movie, but I'm thinking it's poorly written on purpose.
Yeah,
with how good the kills are, I think they knew what they were making.
Yeah, and that's true. And also, and it had some really great comedic things that happened. like I giggled at the whole when she discovered one of the bodies, and there's one that's cut in half, and it says he had a sign that says half off.
Yeah, I loved it because I believe that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the guy she was interested in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was that guy. Because he was the one that he got cut with the box cutter first, right? Is that the same guy? No.
Yeah, he got got through the box cutter with the blade open. Yeah, it cut him in the hand. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, but then like that's another scene that I love, and I want to see if you caught it. So when she was on the the conveyor, whenever you put the groceries on there and it moves it, she's like getting choked or trying to get killed by the killer, who is straight up psychoduty. At this point, he's completely insane, and I love it. I'm there for it. But he when she hits him with that bottle of like Sprite or something like that, it was like a 2-liter. It was a bottle. It was like a 2-liter bottle, but it wasn't like it was like a plastic bottle, I think. But it made a boop. It made a boop noise when she hit him with it, and he reacted to it like it was like a glass bottle, but just the noise that it made was boop, something like that. And then, of course, when he's beating her ex-boyfriend with this severed head.
I loved it. Didn't you love it? Who doesn't want to see someone get beat with a severed head? I mean, come on. It's insane.
There's a scene where he tricks her, he fakes her out by saying, help me, I'm hurt bad, I need help. And then she sees, and then he reveals that he's holding the severed head, and this is the scene.
Yeah. The dude is, man. He's, as far as killer reveals go, this is, I think, my favorite. Like I put it past Stu and Billy, Mrs. Voorhees.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe it's just the guy's performance.
he was so insane. Like he was, and okay, we'll talk about it. But yeah, like with the his like the reveal. Like first she sees him and hugs her, and he says, "It's okay. I'm gonna call the police and stuff." And he goes on the phone and he's talking and stuff like that. And then like when he turns around, you see blood on his hand. She sees blood on her, and she's like, "Where did it come from?" And it's on his hand, and he sees the blood on his hand, and she notices it, and he was like, he's like, ah, or something like that. He throws the phone, it just like goes crazy, and then like he's like just hurtling over the checkout lane.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I can't remember what movie it reminded me of. It may be in Leprechaun, one of the Leprechaun films. Because I think he did something similar. But this came first, obviously. But it reminded me of some horror film, though, that I don't know if it was in a grocery store or not, but it just reminded me of that. I thought it was hilarious. She's running away. He's on the checkout counters, just jumping. It was just funny. It was. You had to experience it to really get it in full detail. I mean, it was just hilarious. Look, like I thought the movie was fine before the reveal, but once the reveal happens, it just makes the movie go so over the top. And I'm like, now I'm like looking back, I was like, you know what? I really love this movie. I liked it, but now I love it just because of the reveal.
Yeah, the reveal was like magical, man. And then like not only just that, but I love how like yeah, I wonder about this. I'm curious about this, and I want to see what your thoughts is, because the way that he acted, this Dan Hicks, the way that he acted, and I think about the way Stu acted on screen. I would venture to say that part of the research for Stu must have been watching this movie, because like if you look at the way Stu, not Billy Loomis acted crazy, but Stu acted an extra bit of craziness, where like and because he was just like insane, and that's what I loved about this guy. He's just insane.
Billy was dramatically insane. Like Norman Bates, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
But Stu was entertaining insane. It was a fun aspect of insanity, which is what I love. I love the fun insanity. So you know what? Since it was Wes Craven directed that, he's I consider him the GOAT in horror, but I would say, yeah. Stu, Billy probably did research this movie. I had no idea it existed, but I would say you're right. The way he acted, he was inspired by this. I don't know what kind of killer to call him. This store obsessed. He really loves his store.
He really loves the store. I wish I could find the scene where it's a beautiful scene of him. You see the sandwich first, and so he tells a story earlier about a guy walking with a head in one hand and a sandwich in the other. But you see the scene, and you see, and also this is what I found out about. Because that story was a story that Scott Spiegel heard from someone, like a real life thing that happened somewhere, where someone had, was at an accident, and they're so desensitized to it that they had a sandwich and they also had a head in one hand, and just like was so desensitized to what they do because they do it all the time. but that story shows up in Raising Arizona, which is also I think it's Sam Raimi movie, because like of just the character talking about, yeah, this guy with the head, So Scott said, no, I'm going to put that in my movie, because he's like, no, I'm going to use it, and so Scott Spiegel used that in his movie. So that scene of him, like, you see him eating a sandwich and just walking, just a jolly and eating a sandwich. And then, like, you see his other hand, he's just swinging ahead, just eating a sandwich. And you, like, I thought at that moment, this is just the most insane movie I've ever seen. I love it. I was like, for no rhyme, because I didn't hear the story. I did not pay attention to him telling the story earlier, so I didn't even think about that. I just thought, this is just the most craziest thing, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it was totally bonkers. I didn't expect it to be. I didn't know what I was getting into. I'd be first one to tell you. You picked this. I was like, it's gonna be a slasher movie from the '80s. All right. It'll probably be bad, but I was like, okay, I'll just go with it. And then you get to all this stuff that's happening. I'm like, wow, this is kind of intense. It's. I ain't never seen anything quite like it before, and I love Pieces. Don't get me wrong, I do. I like Pieces more to a degree because you know what happens to the guy's area, but
this
as
part
far
is
as killer reveals, man. Yeah, I just have never seen anyone quite like this guy before, and I was so invested in him. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Like, he was so into the role, and he made me interested in the movie more because of him. And oh man, I just had a great time. And I remember because we saw that Bruce Campbell was going to be in the movie. It said special appearance by Bruce Campbell. I'm thinking, oh, he's going to be the killer. That's what I was hoping for. I was like, see Bruce in the late 80s play a sadistic killer. That's going to be awesome. And I remember when it was first revealed it was this guy, I was disappointed until he started talking. Once he started talking, I was like, oh, I was on board. I was like, yeah, Bruce couldn't have done it this good.
Yeah, no.
Better actor, like, sure, but in this one moment, no one could touch this guy.
And so, and Brandon, you shared on your, I think it's on your Snap, like a thing where he was dragging her under the car.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because she like escapes and she runs to a car and she's trying to fumble with the keys to get in the car and she finally gets the door open and then like Renee Estevez's body comes out, is revealed that she somehow was in her car. Anyway, so and then
she
like
opened the door and one of the victims had a knife and so she grabs the knife as he's pulling. So he's got his weapon. He's about to kill her, and she stabs him in the knife. And he's like,
"What does he say?"
Knife. But my favorite part about that whole scene is he falls down. The knife just flips up in the air, and it's perfect.
Yeah, and that's what's so funny. The knife, like, just like, kind of, that's just like weird. It's almost like it accidentally fell out. But they shot it and they just like had it stick in the right next to him. But like it's just like it's beautiful. Then like
that was a blooper and they just kept it.
Yeah. And then she goes and runs to the phone booth and she starts calling 911, I guess, which is a rotary phone, so it took a long time to dial. She's like,
yeah,
and it was a minute. And so she and then like he comes and starts pushing the phone booth and pushes her down and starts trying to attack her. And then the boyfriend comes miraculously back. The ex-boyfriend comes back. And what's funny is if y'all watch this movie, if you watch right at this second, because the way it's shot, the phone booth is down and the crazy store manager is trying to get in there to kill her. And he's trying to get to her. but you see the boyfriend come around, but you can see him kind of push somebody out the way, whoever's back behind the phone booth. You can see the head. You see him kind of push him out the way, and he gets in place to start hacking the guy or whatever. But you see another head kind of like looking like that, and I was like, "That's great. That's great." I'm glad that it's in this movie. And then like when he's hacking him, you see the blood, but clearly it's not going in him. It's like
Yeah,
it's so
it's not at all.
but you see this blood, and then like the police showed up, and one of them is Bruce Campbell,
Yeah.
and they immediately believe that these people are guilty.
Oh yeah. I love the fact that he's dying over there in the phone booth. Yeah, he's saying they did it.
It's them. They did it. They killed everybody. They did it. And the police like, you gonna believe him?
I mean, he's over there dying. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna believe him. I mean, but it was great. I mean,
Oh, tell them about the end, though, Brandon. Tell them about the.
well, I mean, they are getting arrested. They're gonna get charged with this, and he just kind of opens his eyes and smiles. It's just it left it open for a sequel. Which,
but she screams, and she wasn't even looking in his direction when he opened his eyes.
I know.
She just opened his eyes, and then she just started mad. Like, oh my God, he's still alive. But
that kind of reminded me of Pieces, but that dude had every reason to scream.
Too. I mean, you can't. What are you gonna do with a hand comes out of a body bag and squeezes? I never get the end. I never got that. To this day, I don't know what
you
the
don't
heck
need
happened.
to understand it. You just need to embrace it.
That's what I love about this movie. You don't need to understand it. You just need to embrace it. There's some dialogue that's so funny in this movie.
If you're trying to explain this movie with logic, dude obviously has some chemical imbalance. I don't know how he became a co-owner. I don't know how he became a store manager or a 49% store man. I don't know. It just don't make any sense.
49% store manager.
That's a Vince McMahon type angle there. It just don't make sense. However, you roll with it, man. You just go with it. It's just like, yeah, logic. Throw it out the door. Don't need it.
So here's the scene with Bruce Campbell, and then you can see the manager in the phone booth. They did it. It's them. Oh man, this movie's great. It's on Tubi. I think it's on Pluto TV as well. You can buy it on Blu-ray. I think it's $19 on Amazon. Or you can buy a digital copy on Amazon Prime, which is like I think $3 to $4. But I would be interested to get the Blu-ray because it has commentary, and I just want to know everything. I just want to know what happened, and that's what it'd be the most satisfying thing. I want to know what was going on while they shoot this movie.
Yeah, I mean that would actually be an interesting commentary to listen to. But I did have a question before we get to the numbers and all that. Sometimes we talk about remakes. Obviously a sequel is probably too late to happen. I'm sure he was kind of old in this movie, so I'm sure he's no longer living. Or if he is, he's just really old.
He passed away. He passed away in 2020.
But I was going to ask you, as far as remakes go, would you like to see like maybe Sam Raimi return, like to produce a remake of this?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see a remake that actually takes place in like maybe if this was in '89, I'd like to see it maybe 10 years later and 10 years later in '99, like set it earlier in the decade, or even in like the '90s, like '95 or something like that, somewhere technology still hasn't caught up to what we have today. I would love to see it in that sense. I think it'd be great. Um, it. I think more people should have eyes on this movie, and I think that its cult following would actually grow. Like I didn't know this existed until
Yeah.
the BG Horror Club said, "Hey, we're gonna watch Intruder," and I seen the art, the same art that we have up there, and I was like, that looks interesting. I do want to see it, but yeah, I don't know. I would love to see a remake or reboot or something like that. Uh, and I would love to see like who I would cast. I don't know who I would cast as the manager, that manager, the crazy manager. Uh, I could see Robert England, but he's too much is Freddy, so people would already think he's that
Yeah.
immediately. I don't know. I would love to see a sequel, and that he's now a manager somewhere else, or I don't know how that will work. I wish it was that guy. I wish it was that guy. Though. That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about, I mean, who you would cast, I
Nicholas
just feel
Cage.
if for today, the final girl would probably be Jenna Ortega, just because
Yeah.
she's in everything these days. But as far as the killer goes, and here's my theory: they would probably gender swap it. It'd probably be a woman. I don't know if she could pull it off, but I would cast Christina Ricci. I mean, I've never seen her play something that kind of crazy before, but I love her, and she grew up in the genre. Or Danielle Harris, but I'd rather see Christina because I think it would get a bigger budget if it was Christina. but that's who I would cast if you're going to do the gender swap, which I feel they would. But I don't know.
Or this is who I would cast if she's up to it. Adrienne Barbeau as the manager.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. It has to be a manager that if they're gonna do the whole plot thing, it's got to be a manager. That's what I would do. I would have it be a store, but it's being bought out by a conglomerate. Like we gotta close down, guys, because we got bought out by Wally World or Wally Mart, or you can't call it Walmart, but you gotta call it something similar, where people know that it's gonna be like a Walmart, like a superstore. And and unfortunately they're gonna be hiring, but we can't have you move over. You can interview, but you can't, but the person that's disgruntled about it has to be a manager that maybe started there as a cashier and got to a point where she now is a manager or owner, and it has to be somebody that's very believable, that you can see them go nuts and can do it and can pull it off. Adrienne Barbeau, Linnea Quigley, she's good at playing crazy, but she has to be sympathetic at first because he was sympathetic. You're like, oh man, you hate that he's losing his business.
Yeah, I really didn't see it being him, honestly. Because he was sympathetic to everybody. He was very disappointed in himself. I didn't think, okay, this guy's going to end up killing everybody. That's not what I thought at all. Like I thought he was, he was the one that he had sincerity, and didn't see him being a mental person.
No, and also I would say that this movie did really good is they utilized different aspects of a of a grocery store.
Yeah.
In order for murdering or for the kill scenes, like with the other manager in the office, like that little thing. You remember those things where you would take your things that you finished and you just put it on the spike thing, the paper on your desk.
Remember, yeah.
I remember those things, and for them to use that creatively as a kill weapon was great. And then like you said, the trash compactor, that table saw was the best. And then like the hook, the one of the weakest kills in my opinion would be the Raimis, both Raimis. Sam's Raimi was the hook in the face,
Yeah.
like the big hook, I thought it was gonna be in his mouth, which would have been really cool. But they just did just had him resting up on it. Versus I thought they was gonna put it in his mouth and have it go through his jaw or something. But then of course Ted was just Ted's death was a recycled death from Friday 13th, I think. Didn't somebody get killed like that? But not the.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they had something on their head. Huh? But did they have
similar?
Something?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it looked familiar. That was like a very familiar death scene.
Yeah, the person in Friday 13th was from the front. This was from the behind, but it was pretty similar. But they had some certain shots that it felt like they took right out of the page of Friday the 13th. And I said this to you. I thought it made me appreciate the original Friday the 13th more. Because we all say that it coined the term slasher, but no one really talks about it being one of the best slasher movies ever. It just made me appreciate it more. I don't even consider it one of the better slasher movies or even one of the better Friday the 13th films, but I do appreciate it a little bit more because without it, maybe we wouldn't have gotten the slasher movies we got. I mean, I know we can say Halloween is the reason we got them, but Friday the 13th is the movie that coined it. So, but I just appreciate it more. And it brought back a love because I haven't been all that lovey-dovey with horror films as of late. I haven't liked one horror film I've seen this year. So
I've seen two that I've liked: Abigail and Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, but the ones I have seen, I just it just left me not wanting to watch any horror.
I didn't like Immaculate, and I did not like
what about the ending? Everyone talks about the twist ending to that movie.
I didn't like it. I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
Did you watch it? You ain't watched it yet? Okay.
No, I just people say it's the reason to watch it. So
no, it's not. Yeah, and then I would say the same thing about the Omen, the first Omen or whatever it was. I didn't finish it, but I wasn't.
You weren't feeling it.
Yeah, well, I've seen it. I really wasn't feeling it. It's just like I never liked the Omen movie at all. None of them. I really thought all of them kind of overhyped movies. The Exorcist is a much better film, but that's just my opinion.
Like I haven't seen any of the original Omen movies, so I think I saw the remake. I'm not 100% sure.
With Cotton Weary. I don't know his real name.
Yeah, okay, I have seen it. I didn't care for it. What was that movie?
Julia Childs is in it too, right? Julia Stiles, she's in it as well.
Yeah, I think she plays the mom. That movie, it got 4 sequels. I can't even think of it. The Ryan Reynolds remake. I can't think of what it's called.
Oh, you're talking about Amityville?
Yeah, I feel like they're the same movie. Except this little boy's controlling things in the Omen. I don't care. I don't really care for those type of movies. Yeah. I like The Conjuring and stuff, but if you're giving me a choice to watch Supernatural or you watch a old-fashioned slasher movie, I'm watching an old-fashioned slasher movie every day.
I will say this director, before we get to our numbers, this director went on in 92 to do a movie called The Nut House, which I've never seen. He also did From Dusk to Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money.
I was like, yeah, he didn't do the first one.
He did My Name is Modesty, a Modesty Blasé adventure. I don't know what that is. And of course, last but not least, Hostel Part 3.
I would say his best movie is Intruder.
Yes, I would say that. And he has a movie that's coming out right now. It's in production called Spring Break '83. That might be interesting. That might be back to his roots, hopefully.
Yeah, I didn't like From Dusk Till Dawn 2. I didn't like any of the sequels. Hostel 3, I don't even remember. So I think it's the one with Kip Purdue, but I'm not sure. But
yeah, no, Intruder is by far his best film. I'm ready to go ahead and give the numbers. Ready?
yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to give this movie 5 markouts out of 5. I thought it was fun. As a slasher film, it got me interested in watching more horror, specifically older horror movies. It's where it took me. It made me like, oh, I kind of want to see other horror stuff. Like, you got me.
Yeah.
It gets the juices flowing for horror, and that's what it did for me. So I thought at first I didn't know what to expect. When I first got into it, I was like, maybe I chose wrong, and I was gonna audible at I was like, maybe I should audible. But then like I just stuck with it, and by the end of it, I'm like, I'm so glad I seen this movie. I'm glad that I know that this exists. Like you said, it's like pieces. You didn't know what you was going into, but you're glad that you was there. Like for me, and Demon
I would never say Pieces is a good movie ever, but I love it.
Same for me with Demon Wind. Same for me with what's the other one? The movie about like it's like a precursor to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What is it? And there's magic tricks. There's so much happening. It's great. What is that movie? It takes place, and then also Spring Break, the movie called Spring Break, or The Mutilator. Same thing as that movie. But yeah. Yeah,
You had a really good time with it. I mean, which I'm glad. I'm glad. When I was watching this though, I was like, I bet Aaron didn't like this because we have different taste when it comes to fun horror, and most of the time when I really like it and I think it's fun, you don't. And so I was like, I bet he doesn't like this. But turned out you did, and I love it. I love that you did. You liked it better than me, actually.
Yeah, what's your?
I give it a 4 out of 5. I thought the kills were genuinely they were good. I thought the reveal was perfect. I just thought it took too long to actually get going. Like it felt like it took way too long to really get going with what was going to happen, get the kills going. It just felt like it took like 40 minutes. And I thought that was a little bit too long. So it loses a little bit mustard for me right there. But once it goes, I mean, I'm invested. And what kept me interested in it was actually the store. It just reminded me so much when I first started at Walmart. The people you interact with, you like these people are not in their sane mind. There's quite some characters, especially that first year at Walmart. I met a lot of people that I questioned if they had all their sanity. So there was some realism there with these characters, but it was a great time. I had a great time with it. It made me want. You said you wanted to make a low budget horror film. It made me actually want to write one.
Yeah.
Like something to do with a store. Some experiences I had at Walmart incorporated into a low budget like horror film. Maybe I should. Maybe we should.
I agree. I want, and I always wanted to do one. I've always wanted to do because Kevin Smith inspired me with Clerks. Clerks was such an amazing movie that how he captured what it was like to work at a convenience store, which I don't have that experience. I never worked at a convenience store, but the experience I had working at the movie theater was absolutely phenomenal. As far as like some of the people you experience, the customers, it's just like I thought it would be a great movie to make. But I always thought it'd be cool to have a horror movie version of working at a movie theater. Like we kind of got it a little bit in the Scream show, but I always wanted to do
one. It was a very low budget movie that took place but it kind of puts you into the movie.
Yeah, okay, I remember that movie.
I don't remember what it's called, but I liked it though. I thought it was kind of cool.
The movie was like almost like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of movie. I think it's called Midnight Movie or something like that. Midnight something.
Yes, I think that's it. Midnight Movie.
Yeah.
I liked it though. I mean, I watched it with my ex, and she didn't care for it, but I thought it was fun. But yeah, I think it's a good concept to make a little horror film at a movie theater. It's a classic cliche, and you're stuck somewhere, and that's one of the qualities you got to have for a great slasher movie. You have to be stuck somewhere with no way out, and you got to have good characters, which I think you would have great characters in a movie theater. Honestly, people that work there, the customers, it'd be great. I could totally see it. I would love it. I think you actually brought it up once that you wanted to do something there.
Yeah, definitely.
If Regal would let you, man, that would be perfect. I'm just saying, if they would let you film something there, that would be perfect. You do so much after hours.
Yeah, I was able to, and I will say this: I was able to shoot a couple of short films at the theater, as far as for my project when I was at Western.
Yeah,
and it's just great atmosphere as far as what like there's a stairwell that leads up to projection booth. It's just a long set of stairs, and it's just so creepy looking. That I thought, oh man, it'd be kind of creepy, just a visual of something coming down the stairs or going up the stairs, but yeah, I guess Brandon, what's your pick next week?
I don't know. I had thought maybe going to martial arts. Then I kind of thought today, it's like, man, I like this movie so much. Maybe I should pick another slasher movie from the 80s. I'll look on Tubi and see what's out there, because I don't have much of a streaming platform right now. So, and Netflix nothing I would actually want to watch as far as horror goes. I mean, besides the Fear Street movies, there's really nothing, and I don't want to do a series. Just kind of like to do one movie. I'll let you know in a couple of days.
Okay. I wish I was trying to find. I forgot the name of the movie that I was telling you about it takes place. It's almost like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of situation, and they end up at this building, and I think it's not a wax museum, but there's puppets or something, but it's weird. It's weird, man. But it felt like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it predates Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I think somebody that had something to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre had something to do with that, and it came before it. I forget, but it was on Joe Bob Briggs.
Like early 70s?
Early 70s, yeah.
It sounds familiar. I may have seen it.
Yeah. But
I used to, buy some of those really old movies they would have at Hastings that I had never heard of. I don't know. If I see anything like that, I'll pick it.
No.
Your friend wants us to pick one too. What was it?
Oh, I'll talk to you about it. Something about the diner, the diner, American dining or something. I forget, but I have to look it up. And he mentioned something else, but I think both of them might be on Hulu. Real quick before we leave, once again, the Bowling Green Horror Club or BG Horror Club meets every month, and they watch a movie. The movie they watched this month was Intruder. I didn't get to go see. Brandon is also part of that group. He didn't get to go see, but we did get to watch it, and I'm glad that I did get to watch it. I think it would have been really cool to watch it with a group of people, or I might have got bored early. I don't know, but I'm glad I watched it, but I don't know.
I don't like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I think with a group of people, it'd probably be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Sleepaway Camp. I think that would be fun to watch with a group of people. in a
Yeah,
theater.
Sleepaway- Now, I will say I've seen Sleepaway Camp. I've seen both these movies a number of times, but Sleepaway Camp has always been a good little early horror, 80s horror. I think it's like came out in 83, 84, I think maybe. It's very early 80s. And then Killer Clowns is in the 90s. It's good.
Was it? I thought it was 80s.
Maybe late 80s, early 90s.
I mean,
But
I've only seen it once all the way through. I just couldn't really get into it, but it does have its following. Oh, it does. It's got a game coming out. I mean, it's wild to me.
Did our dude did our friend have something to do with that movie? Do you know? The makeup.
I don't think so.
Miguel. I don't think he did. I think he did work with those brothers though. He worked with them on Critters. He worked on.
He did do Critters. Critters 2.
Critters 2. He helped create
I don't
the giant.
think he had anything to do with that one.
Yeah, but
He didn't mention it. If he did,
no.
I would have remembered that.
I would love to interview him again about like maybe what he's doing now. He was really fun. But
we should also interview Joe because he did the sequel to Mutilator, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
he did. Or he's doing it.
He's doing a lot more than what he was doing. So
yeah, man.
He was a fun one to do. I mean,
he's such a makeup. He's now he don't get props either, man. He's really good. He's really good at making it look real. He's good. It's tough, man. Y'all should check him out. Joe,
Castro.
Yeah, Castro.
Castro.
But yeah, well, we thank you all for what do we want people to do, Brandon?
Oh yeah, we hadn't done this in so long. If you enjoyed this review, click that like button, click that share, subscribe to our Markout Movie Podcast channel on YouTube and on Facebook. And
on Spotify, we're on Spotify too, so you can listen to us there. Everywhere you can hear podcasts, we're there, or we should be. But this isn't recording. We're gonna make it work. But all right. In the meantime, and in between time, Aaron Whitlow,
Brandon Spivey.
We are the Markout Movie Podcast. Thank you for marking out with us. Have a good weekend. Have a good Memorial Day thing.